Unfinished Business Television fans. Show your love for all things retro and movie magic by grabbing some awesome gear from 80sts.com. Your go-to spot for the best nostalgic t-shirts from your favorite movies, TV shows, and pop culture classics. Use promo code UBTV at checkout to save on your order and support Unfinished Business Television. While you're at it, relive the classics or the memories. Shop now at 80sts.com with code UBTV.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back and Happy New Year. We are not quite through with 2025 because this episode is all about us going down our top 10 movies of 2025. Either our best or our favorites. Take it how you will, because obviously we didn't see everything. But before we start, hello, I'm Jeff Galashaw of Unfinished Business Television. And with me, as always, is my co-host, Andre Joseph of AJ Epics Productions.
The ice is very slippery outside. It is messy. It is dangerous. And to that end, fuck the ice.
Well, okay, fuck the ice and fuck ice in general. But let's get started with our list. Andre, what is your 10 favorite movie of the year that is in 10th place?
Well, just to have the usual disclaimer for people that don't normally watch us, we may repeat some of these because we have differences in opinion about what our top tens are. But I have a few surprises in here too that you may not even guess. So, my number 10 of 2025 is Friendship with Paul Rudd and the other dude from Saturday Night Live.
Tim Robinson,
Yeah, Tim
the star
Robinson.
of the film. Yes.
I just like, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, why did you pick it? And
Well, I like that it was a nice twist on a usual stalker, the neighbor from hell, the lover from hell type of tale. And I like the fact that it is a farce, even though it's kind of shot like it's a thriller. The performances are fantastic all around. Tim Robinson, obviously, he's the kind of guy that you would be afraid of to have at your party and have as a house guest anytime he is just so emboldened to want to be like Paul Rudd. And then you also don't like Paul Rudd either. This is one of the rare cases of him playing a character that you really do want to see get his comeuppance. And I guess he kind of does, but doesn't. But I just liked it as a good character piece. It was something different for the year. And it was an A24 project, right?
yes.
Yeah, so it's a nice little diversion from their usual fare, and I really did enjoy this one. There were a couple that almost made the 10th spot that I saw, but I think in terms of like some underground indie films, especially since I'm just so tired of the mainstream bullshit, I thought this was worthwhile for number 10.
Interestingly enough, it's also my number 10 movie
Hmm.
of the year. I like it. I'm a Tim Robinson fan, so I've watched his show on Netflix and his previous show, Detroiters. I remember his one season with Saturday Night Live. So, for me, this film is just so part of his humor, but also still one of a kind. You couldn't really put anybody else in the role Tim Robinson plays. And it's just like so out of left field, just so awkward. And the tone of the film is never quite predictable. Um, the cast, even like in smaller roles, Raphael Sabarge, who we interviewed, is also in the film and plays a role. And it's just so it's something you couldn't describe. It's something where you really have to be like, you have to see it to truly understand it. And surprisingly, I used to think A24 and Annapurna Pictures were the same company.
Yeah, me too.
So I was like, oh, they're different. I'm thinking Megan Ellison really has good taste. I'm like, damn. And where's she getting all this money to fund these films? But
Clearly
unfortunately,
the better Ellison.
of course, but she supposedly has, I guess, a stipend, but we won't get into that. We can do that more on the live show. But I do have to say, more people should have discovered it, but since it didn't exactly make that much money at the box office, there's still hope that this will ultimately be a cult film. Okay, so for my number 9 movie, I picked Marty Supreme. Now I think this movie is overrated as hell, but I gotta give it. It's got the quality, like Timothy Chalamet is good. I'm not voting for him for best actor, good, but he is good in the film. And Odessa Azayan, I don't know, she's easy on the eyes, as a supporting character, and of course recent controversy. But the film's just really well made. It's like most Safdie brothers, but it's a little more relaxed, where it's like, that kind of unlikable anti-hero in the lead going after something, and the film like making it feel like it's closing in on him. And he's gotta, succeed or else, peril. So I'm used to that quality, but I like that it didn't feel as like of the moment as his previous films. Josh Safdie, broke up with his brother Benny to go their own separate ways. So Josh is kind of winning in the filmmaking because he also was nominated for best director for this. But I mean, I really like. Plus, Abel Ferrara in an acting role, director Abel Ferrara. How could you not love this? And it made ping pong somewhat interesting, And Gwyneth Paltrow, I have to say, never really a huge fan until recently. Looks quite fetching in this film and gives a good performance. Kevin O'Leary, fuck that guy because I don't think it was acting. It's, but he played an asshole very well. So Andre, did you see Marty Supreme yet?
I have not yet seen it, but I do intend to see it very soon.
Okay, so what is your number 9 movie of the year?
My number 9 is actually a sleeper that I think few people saw, and that's Steven Soderbergh's Presence, the
Mm.
gimmicky ghost movie that you've probably seen previews of, where the entire film set in one location is all done from the perspective of the ghost. But it's not a horror movie, and it's hardly even a thriller. It's actually an interesting, different kind of a family drama in the sense that it's dealing with a family that moves into a house, and there's the story of this dead girl that happens to have died in this place or has some sort of relation to one of the people in the family. I won't spoil too much about it, but there's a certain thing that goes on involving a certain kid that kind of comes into play, and it turns out he's not everything that you expect that he is. And this unseen presence very much knows what's really going on and is trying to alert the young girl about what might potentially happen to her will happen to this young girl that's living in the house. There's a little bit more to it. You got a lot of unknown actors, other than I believe Lucy Liu plays the mother in the film.
Mm-hmm.
And there's very few movies I would say that really make me appreciate good camera work and good cinematography. And Soderbergh is very well known for being his own cinematographer most of the time when he's doing an indie film, not so much when he's doing a major studio production. And here, there was a lot of cases because the camera is free flowing all throughout and going up different places of the house to where you even wonder how they block these scenes out because it doesn't look like the smooth CGI type of transitions that a movie like Birdman would do. This
Mm-hmm.
felt a little bit more like they didn't have a whole lot of money to spend, so they had to get as creative as possible to make it seamless, not see the crew in the background, because it's very tricky stuff to pull off on a practical set. So to that end, I think it's a movie more people need to see. And yeah, and I think it's highly underrated. That's why it's my number 9.
It actually made my list at number 13.
Hmm.
I really enjoyed this film more than I expected to because, it's a lesser name cast, more newcomers, even though oddly Julia Fox is in it in the like opening scene. But like you said, I think what won me over was the surprises in the story.
Yeah.
and eventually what happens, because I didn't think it would go like there. And also, I have to say, Lucy Liu and the camera work. He is a master cinematographer, master filmmaker, master editor. He's one of those filmmakers who makes a lot of movies, but I think some get pushed to the side or to the wayside from people being exhausted, because he also made the excellent Black Bag this year, but that was more of an all-star, more mainstream effort. But this feels more pure of spirit. Take that pun how you will with this. And it gave you characters that were not only three-dimensional, but you cared about. Like, Lucy Liu starts off as, a tiger mother, kind of bitchy, who obviously loves her son more than her daughter. And then, she comes around and she reveals more of herself, whereas her husband is obviously the more sensitive type. And even like her brother's character at first, he just seems like typical sibling asshole. But throughout the film, you see how much he actually does care about his sister. And I don't remember the young actress's name, but she's very good, who plays the lead,
Yeah.
pretty much. So yeah, I really enjoyed the film more than I did. It made my top 20, just wasn't quite there. Um, my okay, what wait, that was yours. Okay, so my
Yeah.
number 8 film for me was If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. And with Rose Byrne, pretty much a Safdie type film, because Josh Safdie is one of the producers of this film, but he didn't make it. But from a female perspective, it's about a mother who has a daughter who has an eating disorder and is hooked to a machine, and her husband's kind of absent, and she's dealing with all these dilemmas while being a therapist herself, and she's slowly kind of losing it all as she's trying to deal with all this stuff. And at first, it seems like it's going to be more darkly comedic, but then it just goes dark. It's a very sad and depressing film. But like in the past, we've talked about like Aubrey Plaza and Black Bear being like Jenna Rollins and A Woman Under the Influence. This is Rose Byrne's movie. Like, this is where she shows she has the goods. And it's ironic because when Rose Byrne first came out in movies like Troy, I was like, she's just another it girl. And it's like somebody gave her a personal message from me, because ever since then, she's been bringing it. And so I've really enjoyed her performance here and was happy that I believe she got nominated for an Oscar for this, correct?
Yeah.
So she definitely deserves it. I like the film. And you know me, I can't resist a film that has Christian Slater in it, So I'm like, that was a late surprise. Plus Conan O'Brien. This is the most unlikely cast for a movie you'll find. Conan O'Brien in a more dramatic role. And again, ASAP Rocky, another good role that he's believable in. So I really enjoyed this movie more than I expected to. I just thought, this will be a good dark comedy, but it affected me. It took a few hours for me to come up from the down of that movie. So a little warning, but it is definitely worth seeing. Um, Andre, what is your number 8 movie of the year?
I will say I did see If I Had Legs, I Kick You, and I guess we'll review it the next time we do an episode because I have
Okay.
thoughts on it too. My number 8 was Wake Up Dead Man, the third Knives Out installment.
Okay.
And,
Mhm.
listen, I think that, as I mentioned in the last episode, I don't think it's as good as Knives Out, but I think it was a much better improvement over Glass Onion. And Josh O'Connor is the real star of this film. No disrespect to Daniel Craig, who was always phenomenal as Benoit Blanc, but this was Josh O'Connor's movie to really shine, to play a very multifaceted type of protagonist. And the way that it resolves itself, obviously, I think there's a clue here or there to kind of guess how it's going to end, other than maybe one other character that's involved in this murder that takes place. But I like the way that it resolves itself because it all comes back around to him and makes me want to see even more of these Knives Out movies, however long they plan to do them.
I think I need a few years before another Knives Out movie, but I agree. I like this more than Glass Onion. And for all the praise Pedro not Pedro Pascal, sorry, Paul Mescal. Sorry. Hey, it's similar. I feel like Josh O'Connor should be getting that praise that Paul Mescal has been getting. Because he's really the lead here. Um, Glenn Close is a hoot and fun in this film. I don't know if I'd call that dramatic acting. you know, I liked Josh Brolin with the long hair. But Kerry Washington, call your agent. you know, Mila Kunis, agent, fire her.
Yeah.
Because anyway, we've reviewed it. You'll see my thoughts on that film. But I can say, unfortunately, it did not make my top 20. I don't think it even made my honorable mentions, but I did enjoy the film overall. Okay, so Andre, I guess back to back. What is your number 7 movie? And
My number 7 is Eddington.
okay, and
Yeah, and again, another movie that we reviewed, and again, timely, very layered in terms of the characters not being exactly surface level. And I'm tired of Pedro Pascal, but I think that he works for what they need. And Joaquin Phoenix pretty much is the standout, hands down. Emma Stone was kind of like another actress could have played that part. I don't think it needed her prestige for something that small, even though the character was somewhat significant to the whole arc with Joaquin Phoenix. But I like the political messaging. I like that it's sort of poking at both sides and,
mm-hmm,
that there's a lot of contradictions there. And just the overall again the craftsmanship that Ari Aster brings to it, especially the shootout at the end, which I think has some of the best camera work outside of Presence that I saw last year. And I probably would have rated higher had it been for a couple movies that I have a little bit higher,
mm.
but this one definitely makes my top 10 hands down.
This one actually made my list a little bit higher. I don't know. Should I just reveal where it's at already, or?
Yeah, yeah, from as well.
It's actually my number 4 film. A little bit higher. But this is one of those movies I kick myself because I wish I could have seen it in the theaters just to gauge the audience's reaction, because this is definitely a very polarizing film for most audiences. But I thought I would be like, ugh, it was gonna be like Beau is Afraid, a little bit like cringy, or like I don't get it, or that it would lean one way politically. But I have to say, surprisingly, I loved it. I like that it doesn't pick sides. It becomes more three-dimensional. Like the supposed good characters have bad qualities, and then the bad characters actually have some good qualities. So I liked it. And I think for some viewers, the problem was, since it didn't have a definite opinion, it was they just assumed it was the other side than they were. Where again, it's fairly in the middle, so anybody could take what they want from it. But I do think it's definitely better than Beau is Afraid, less personal, and offers satire and a bit of commentary of that time period around the pandemic in 2020. I don't watch many pandemic set movies, but so far this is the best one. So I really enjoyed it. My number 7 movie, this might be a bit of a shocker because I notoriously am not a big animation fan, but this one totally won me over, and I did. And if it was not for people online and their word of mouth, I never would have given this movie a chance. Yes, I liked K-pop Demon Hunters. This is my number 7 movie. Look, I know I shouldn't like it, but it's so catchy. It's funny, but then offers kind of a dramatic story. And those damn songs, I can't help it. I'm like, you find yourself really going with them. And it's just, to me, a total feel good movie. It's something you could watch if you have kids, and you can enjoy it yourself. And, I'm just like, it was one of the better films where I had a smile from beginning to end. And trust me, I wasn't looking for that. I was expecting to be like, this is some BS. But I ended up really liking it. So, have you seen the film?
I have not, but even though I know nothing about K-pop Demon Hunters, I'm kind of happy that anime is really starting to catch on like this in a big way, that it's getting recognized at the Oscars. And I think it's going to be a more dominant force in the coming years.
Yeah, because we have these hits like Chainsaw Man, and I forgot the other one, but it's on Netflix. New Azuma or something like that, two
Mhm.
part two. That's almost 3 hours long, but made like 200 million in other countries. So I'm happy that the anime fans are getting, what they want. I'm not a big animation fan, and when it comes to anime, I watch here and there, I'll admit. But then when it's like you get into a series and you find out, oh, there's 40 episodes of this, it's like, yeah, I'm not watching all of this. That sounds like a lot of filler. So, my number six movie, barely anybody saw this film, even though it's an all-star extravaganza. Blue Moon with Ethan Hawke, Margaret Qualley, Rose Byrne's husband, Bobby. What is his last name?
Cannavale or
I wanted to
Cannavale.
call him Volley for some reason.
Cannoli.
Yes, he does usually play Italian stereotypes. Um, Andrew Scott, who was also in Wake Up Dead Man. Those are really the big names in it. Look, this is Ethan Hawke's year. I don't think he's going to win the Oscar, but he's really showed his range this year in various projects. And I'm finally getting around to being like, you know what, Ethan Hawke, you're cool, man. You know, you might be another Sam Elliott, and because Bradley Cooper isn't. So I really enjoyed this, and it personally affected me because I guess I could identify with the character he was playing, and not just because his character is short. That was the only wonky thing about the film, was them playing up his shortness, especially when he's standing next to somebody like Margaret Qualley and he's not as tall. But I think this is a movie worth watching. It takes place all in one night in one location, Sardis, on the opening night of Oklahoma. And Lorenz Hart, the lead character, who is a drunk and bisexual, realizing like his partnership with his the songwriter, I can't remember the name, played by Andrew Scott, is effectively coming to an end. And less than a year later from this night, he'll be dead, in the streets. But I really enjoyed this, and strangely enough, Richard Linklater made this film because he always likes to throw some kind of historical project in the mix, but he also made Nouvelle Vague. Nouvelle Vague seems to be the one that's getting all the recommendations. It's nominated for 10 Caesar Awards, the French Oscars, and actually was almost France's entry in the best foreign language film. But I enjoyed this film a lot more, maybe because it's original, whereas Nouvelle Vague is about the making of Breathless. And it's like, yeah, there have been tons of books and articles about this, but I've never really heard of Lorenz Hart. So it was one of my best and favorite theater experiences next to my top movies. But I really enjoyed this one, and I highly recommend, if nobody has seen this, check it out where you can. Have you seen this movie?
Not yet.
Okay, so then I will ask you, Andre, what is your number six movie of the year?
My number six is The Lost Bus with Matthew McConaughey.
Okay.
Now,
And
here's a film. I didn't know too much about this particular story. I mean, you always hear about wildfires in California and up in the northwest, and it's always just it's a disaster. People losing their homes and having to evacuate. But this one really puts you in the midst of a disaster, and it's obviously based on a true story of this bus that had to go find these kids that were left behind in an elementary school, and they're basically got like very little gas to run on. And because these fires are happening so fast and so quick, that they don't have enough communication with the outside to figure out the right route to go through. So I think this really is a film that this is Paul Greengrass who gave us Captain Phillips. So he's back into that territory where he really makes you feel the claustrophobia of being within the wildfires. And none of it looks like CGI. It looks like it's definitively real. And not only is McConaughey very good, but America Ferrara really impressed me here as the
mm,
school teacher trying to keep the kids calm, even though she herself is fearful for her life. And I think it's another one that I'm actually a little surprised didn't really get any accolades for the Oscars or the Golden Globes, as far as I'm aware, because more so America Ferrera should have been recognized here because she was excellent. And I think overall, Paul Greengrass really did the Lord's work with this one.
Okay, because I was going to ask you who directed it, because for some odd reason I thought it was a Ron Howard movie.
It
Mm.
has that feel of a Ron Howard movie, but it's all Paul Greengrass, all the handheld shots.
Well, see, with you mentioning Matthew McConaughey and America Ferrera, it's like finally some actors I haven't heard from in a while, doing good work. So now I haven't seen it, but just from your recommendation, makes me want to see it more. So what is your number 5 movie of the year? We're at the halfway point, folks. What is your number 5 movie of the year?
My number five is Highest to Lowest.
Interesting. Especially for a film that seems to be like people love it or hate it. Especially a certain man by the name of Torre. But let's
Yeah,
not even
well,
get into him. But
yeah, we don't too much.
why was it your number 5 film?
I'm not going to say it's Spike Lee's better outings per se. He still has a little bit of the mixed messaging going on, injecting his politics where necessary. But I think as a story, even though I never saw the original Kurosawa film, I like the rhythms of it. I love the train sequence overall. The back and forth with Denzel and Jeffrey Wright is excellent because I mean it's just like watching them is like watching a masterclass. ASAP Rocky really impressed me here, especially once he's revealed as the big bad in the third act. And yeah, I think Spike is in top form in terms of his cinematography, his style, just his overall aesthetics, and probably feels like a spiritual sequel to Inside Man, even though I think Inside Man is the better movie. But overall, it's one that I kind of went out of feeling pretty good, and that's
Okay.
why it wasn't like a Spike Lee movie that made me feel angry or knots in my stomach. This one was like, yeah, this is worthwhile. And Denzel comes out on top. Okay, he's showing his age, the hair, bit much,
You
but I
can't
still
help
like
that.
it. Yeah.
This is my first Spike Lee movie I've enjoyed since Black Klansman. I think was the last time I've enjoyed a Spike Lee movie. I I liked bits and pieces of the film, like you said, the acting between Jeffrey Wright and Denzel's character, ASAP Rocky. I even like that stupid song, Trunks,
Mm.
from the front to the back. I liked the style of the film. I just can't say I loved it as much as I should have because it's got all his trademarks there, and especially fuck Boston. So, but it did not make my list, not even an honorable mention. But if anybody asks me, should they watch it? I'd say give it a chance. You're definitely gonna have an opinion. I just happen to enjoy it, but I didn't think overall it gelled into like this great film. My number 5, another underseen film, is Griffin in Summer. This is a very small indie film about a young man who's like he writes plays and he has his troupe of actors and he ends up getting a crush on the handyman who's in his 20s working on his mother's house, and he kind of forces the guy into his play since the a handyman is a wannabe actor, and just kind of insinuates himself into this guy's life and manipulating it, while we in the audience know that obviously the young man who's 13 years old is most likely gay, and I like that in the background, like his parents are going through a divorce, and it seems like maybe his attention is being distracted because of that. It's like think of a studio happier version of Welcome to the Dollhouse with LGBTQ plus themes. That is this movie. But it also reminded me of the importance of smaller films and independent films, even if you don't necessarily like them. Something that's a little bit out of the norm but tells a universal story. So that is why I really enjoyed the film, and seeing the movie with, a few of my friends who I rarely get to see or go to movies with. and trying out the quad cinema for the first time, which I highly suggest, and their bar. Um, really was just like an overall experience, and especially going to the Q&A with the director and the actor who plays the handyman, you know, simpatico. It was like everything was just perfection in that screening. So that was my number 5 movie, Griffin in Summer. I believe it's on Hulu. You guys can check it out. By any chance, did you see it?
No, I never even heard of this movie.
You definitely have to check that one out. My number 4 film we already talked about, Eddington. So, Andre, what is your number 4 movie?
My number 4 is Weapons.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
Okay. I didn't think it would crack the top 10 for you, but okay. Why is Weapons, number 16 on my list, your number 4 film?
well, Zach Krieger knows how to blend humor within the midst of a very violent and disturbing horror film. And taking Amy Madigan completely outside the box as this modern day witch, I'm glad she got nominated. And I mean, between her and she's up in the same category as Tiana Taylor, right?
Yes.
I'd be happy with either one of them winning because I think she just was phenomenal. You now see people cosplaying as her character, and I really enjoy Josh Brolin in the film. Obviously, Julia Garner. There's some issues when it comes to how she's
You
presented on.
just don't like Julia Garner as
She
an
just looks
actor.
so young to be fornicating with fake Han Solo. But no,
Oh.
outside of that, I found it to be very entertaining. It was a nice little unfolding mystery that kept you guessing. And then once you got to that third act with the kids finally awakening, I mean, nothing beats that feeling. It's one of those images that still stays in my mind from last year.
Well, I think it's good filmmaking. I think I like Barbarian a little bit more, even though this is a wider palette. I don't. I just didn't feel it as much as apparently most audiences, but that seems to be a continuing problem for me. Like when were saying, "Oh, this is better than Sinners," it's like, wait, hold up, what?
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, I'm like, I enjoyed the movie, but I guess for all the hype around it, I was just like, I came out of it like it was okay, like I I didn't have that strong reaction to it. And there are things I like in it, like you said, the third act, Amy Madigan. Um, I think his name is Benedict Wong, who played the
Benedict
principal.
Wong.
Yes, I enjoyed all of them, and the behind the scenes stories of like who was supposed to star in it. With Josh Brolin, he's good. I think he's better than Pedro Pascal might have fit into the role. But again, it also felt like like a for hire job for him too, though. Felt like, oh yeah, I just happen to be here. I'm doing what is called for. But I'm not gonna badmouth it and say you shouldn't watch it, but it just wasn't. I didn't have as strong a reaction you did, but I mean, it still made my top 20. So that shows the strength of the film. Now, for my number 3, this is gonna shock a lot of people because they probably expect it to be higher on my list. Oh, before I even go there, Tiana Taylor, I think if I had to pick a best supporting actress, I vote more for Tiana Taylor, even though she had a small role, but like Amy Madigan, everything in the film revolves around her, even when she's not on screen. Plus, I think she was robbed of an Oscar nomination for Best Actress for 1001. I believe the movie was titled. That's a film. Yeah, if you haven't seen, check it out. It's on streaming because she was really good in that film. But speaking of Tiana Taylor, my number 3 movie is One Battle After Another. And I have a little bit of a problem now. I'm not 100% liberal, but I'm definitely not conservative. But I have a slight problem with the film's racial politics. But I think this is great filmmaking. It's obviously going to be a future classic that everybody watches. The cinematography, though I don't know how many hills in California they have on that road, that seemed endless. But it has so many memorable aspects. But again, I think that little thing with the racial politics kind of bothered me overall that I couldn't push it over the next two films on the list. But I do think it is a great film, an excellent film. And also, I didn't have the best experience watching it in a theater. And I unfortunately didn't get to see it again in a theater, though I wanted to. But I really like this film. And Chase Infinity was robbed of an Oscar nomination for Best Actress or Best Supporting Actress, whichever category they were going to put her in. I'm happy Tiana Taylor. Leo has created another iconic character. Benicio del Toro was the big surprise in this film because let's face it, his character is more comedic than anything, but just relentlessly cool, but in a dad or uncle kind of way, you know? And especially considering he's not really plugged into Bob's underground network, but he himself is kind of fighting the fight with him in his own way, helping, immigrants in his neighborhood. And you hate him so much, Sean Penn. He is really good in this. And that even as the Energizer Bunny in this film with way too tight shirts, you kind of very little have just that teensiest amount of sympathy for him. I still have to ask Paul Thomas Anderson, was it an inside joke or are you pissed at Alana Haim for her death scene? Because
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, she was like the star of your last film. And I mean, the Christmas Foundation, it's real, y'all, and it's out there. And oh, come on, Kevin Teague in a film. When was the last time we've seen him in anything?
And
And
traditional hated Tony Goldwyn as one of the white evil motherfuckers.
hey, that's Kerry Washington's lover in Scandal. Put some respect on his
Well, he's a really good actor because you can hate him in one thing in Ghost, and then you can fall in love with him with Law and Order and Scandal.
Yeah, so and then you hate him again in this movie.
He should come on our
DW
show if he's ever bored.
exactly. Would love to talk to you. DW Moffat.
Yeah.
He makes a and Jim Downey, one of the senior writers of Saturday Night Live, even has a supporting role in this film. And just even them admitting the character of Bob is a fuck up that he can't even remember the codes he helped found. Like little details like that. I mean, come on. I dressed up as Bob for Halloween. So obviously, I do have strong feelings for this film. I feel like this is probably on your list, so I'll let you say your feelings when we reach it on your list. So, what is?
Well,
What? Go ahead.
no, yeah, go. Well, I
No,
was gonna just,
I was gonna say, what is your number three film? And
um, yeah, my number three is The Perfect Neighbor,
the
and all of
documentary.
it. Yeah, and I'm actually a little bit surprised it got nominated for Best Documentary, and I kind of hope it wins. But you see my review; it's just one of those films that really had my blood boiling this year, and I think more people need to see it, especially today.
Yes, it actually made my list. Let me just look up to see where it was. It's in my top 20. Where did I put it? It actually was number 17 on my list.
Hmm.
So I agree. We reviewed it fairly recently, so we've said what we have to say, but it's definitely something you should see because it is definitely that captivating. So since what is your number two film then? Since we're getting to the top.
Well, this is where we get controversial, Jeff.
Okay.
My number two is Sinners.
Wow, which is ironic because it's also my number
Yeah.
two. So why? I don't want you to reveal your number one, but why did it not make the top spot for you? And
I think the movie itself overall is fantastic. Ryan Coogler really shows he is the guy when he's not doing an IP. He has talent. He proved himself right here. Michael B. Jordan playing dual roles and doing them so distinctly is phenomenal. The young guy that plays the blues guitar player, whose name I keep escaping,
Miles Caton. Mm.
Miles Caton. excellent for a debut film, and just somebody that I think you're going to see a lot more of. The most sultry take of Haley Seinfeld that I've ever seen on film. That makes me want her to stop doing Marvel altogether. Not play more roles like this, but give us more original shit like that, and make that worthwhile. And I pray to God that Delroy Lindo takes home the Oscar this year, because he was the scene stealer in every single piece of screen time that he had in this film. I think if it has to be a notch down for me, it's because once you bring in the vampires and that entire third act, it does become a little bit like From Dusk Till Dawn. Not to the letter, but the same type of imagery and vibe that that film had in the way that it twisted and turned. It's still something that it's original to a point, but it doesn't take away from the movie. I think it still works as is. I think the ending is perfect. And I think that the messaging is there and the imagery is there. It's just maybe a step down below for me personally compared to what my number one is.
Well, I feel like we know what your number one
Yeah.
movie is. But before we go there, I really wanted Sinners to be my number one movie. I really, really wanted it, but there was just one movie, which we'll get to, that had more of an emotional connection for me that pushed this to number two. Because other than Wakanda Forever, I have loved or really liked most of Ryan Coogler's movies, you know? And he seems like a very down to earth guy who knows his stuff, as a director and just as a writer too. And finding out like one of the inspirations from this film was taking a road trip with the women in his life to go see Beyonce. It's like, and this is what you came up with from that experience. But it's like a comeback movie because this is his first film after Wakanda Forever. Michael B. Jordan finally not being an IP and playing something original, and he's actually really good in both roles that you really believe, it's a different actor. I like the 1930s kind of set. And that's the power of the film. Like you were saying, it becomes kind of like From Dusk Till Dawn. But even if it wouldn't have gone there, this film was such an
Yeah.
interesting look at that time period. You could have just sat there and watched this as a drama, if if anything. I agree with Delroy Lindo. I mean, I really like Sean Penn, but he's got an Oscar. And I feel like Delroy Lindo deserves it because he was robbed of an Oscar nomination for The Five Bloods. And so I really, there's just everything. The one thing about this film that I don't love that everybody else does, I don't love the score. I like the Miles Caton song, obviously, but like the score, I'm like, you know, that's my only thing. And I agree with you about Haley Steinfeld because I feel like she's one of these teen actresses, but even with, I forget the name of the movie she did with Woody Harrelson, that was kind of a teen film, but
Edge of 17.
huh? Oh,
Edge of
Edge of 17.
17.
Yeah, even with that film, I felt like it was still more of an indie type movie than your typical teen film. So I've always respected her as an actress. So, and I've always respected her for that. I mean, I even liked, oh God, I'm forgetting her whole resume here. The Transformers movie she was in, Bumblebee.
Oh, Bumblebee. Yeah.
Yeah, I even like that movie. So I think she's got a good head on her shoulders for script. So, and she's the voice on those Into the Spider Verse movies too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
she's got a great career. Controversial husband, but
Not that
that's
controversial.
yeah, it's neither here nor there. That's her personal life. But really, I really love this film, and I wish it was my number one movie because now I like Ryan Coogler so much. I even listen to him on podcasts I don't normally listen to. Amy Poehler. So that's how interesting I think is mine. And then find out he's an X Files fan. Like what? you know. So he's just cool. And and he can back up what he's saying. I mean, I wouldn't mind it if he got best director. I mean, probably won't, but if that was a surprise, I'd be like, I'm not mad at it. So, Andre, tell us, what is your number one movie? Mm.
One battle after another.
Yeah, because if you would have said, "Oh, something else," and like, where I would have been like, "Where's one battle after another on your list?" Then, so now tell us, since it's your number one, why it's your number one. Mm.
Because it's timely and as good as Leo is, I agree. Chintz Infinity is a superstar. Tiana Taylor for that at least that first act that she's present in is phenomenal. Sean Penn, we know what he's capable of, and really makes a very dark type of character have some layers to make him a little bit more in the gray area and not just like a flat out villain. And I love the way Paul Thomas Anderson shoots action in that third act was really incredible with the camera work. Even the chase stuff that DiCaprio and Benicio del Toro had to do to get out of the building as these guys are converging and they got to get all the Hispanic people out of there. I thought that was a really good sequence, and it's funny. It really does play into the satire that PTA is very well known for, and I just think, honestly, there's only so few of his films that I really enjoy, like Boogie Nights, Magnolia, Licorice Pizza. I really enjoy, and I enjoyed There Will Be Blood. But there's a lot of the others that are really a little bit harder to sift through. Even The Master, I was a little disappointed in, and I
Wow.
thought that could have been a better movie for
Mm.
what that was tackling. But this one, it hit all the right notes for me as a filmmaker, and just loving something that's original and something different.
Well, I will say when it comes to this film, well, somebody were leaving out Regina Hall
Yeah,
being in this film. Yeah, she kind of has a thankless role. And justice for Jungle Pussy. I want Jungle Pussy in more films. For those who don't know, that is a rapper who goes by that name, but also is used as a character in this film. So, like I said, I really like this film. And you would think these two would have been my number one, considering how much I liked them. But my number one film, which got no Oscar love, and I don't hear anybody but Julia Roberts really talking about. Sorry, Baby, written, directed, and starring Eva Victor. Now, this is a film about kind of survival after being brutally attacked, but showing you don't have to go the tradition. Like everybody has their way of dealing with tragedy, and it doesn't have to be the traditional route of just doom and gloom. It can be emotional, but it can also be funny in its own way. And how do you, I guess, live? You have no choice but to live, but how do you get or try to be back to normal after this? And I think this is a great film, and it was a perfect theatrical experience. And I really wish a lot more people would discover this film. I look forward to whatever film Eva Victor makes next. And I really think it'll, even though it's specific attack, I think it's universal in its emotions and feelings. And I really feel like it should have at least gotten a Oscar nomination for Best Original Screenplay. And Naomi Aki is really good in this as her best friend. And I just really wish like she would have even been recognized as best supporting actress because she's really the heart of the film, and it's just such a, it's one of those, I will say it's probably like a film most people would think of a Sundance film. It's very heartwarming, yet quirky, but dealing with serious subjects. I just really wish more people were talking about this film because I loved it. And I'll admit, if one of my friends didn't really heavily recommend this film and say, this is something you're definitely going to love, I probably would not have seen it just going by the trailer because I was like, this seems a little too quirky. But I'm glad I did. And that is my number one movie of the year. I'm sure people are going to be like, Jeff with the artsy fartsy again. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. By any chance, have you seen this film or heard of this film?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it yet.
It's on HBO Max for anybody who wants to see it. So we that is our top 10 film list, but I'm going to offer you a challenge. That ends our business for this week. But as you know, we always have unfinished business. Andre, what film, probably from maybe 10 to 20, what film would you recommend is that people should go see because it's fucking awesome?
Recently or just anything?
It can be it could be an honorable mention movie. It could be something from your 10 to 20, or it could be a fairly recent movie. It's up to you.
Uh, have you seen The Rip? If not, why not? Because it's fucking awesome.
Okay. I will ask people, have they seen Messi? Because if not, why not? Because it's fucking awesome. It's on streaming services. I saw a screening with writer, director, star Alexi Wasser. It almost made my top 10, but unfortunately it didn't. But I do think it's a really low budget film that is a throwback to the 1970s types of films, starring Jill Clayburgh. You know, a young woman trying to find love in New York City, and all the wondrous characters it introduces her to, and the embarrassing situations. And I think it's something that shows like a young woman with an original voice, and I really highly suggest it, and it is fucking awesome. So definitely check that out. And so until next time, we bid you adieu.
If you like this review, please be sure to like and hit subscribe to be alerted to new episodes in the future.